My first time in Louisiana, but let me take you back before the trip first. Out taking a walk. There are so many little bluebirds out here, flitting about. They're so cute and pretty. There were a number of them hovering in the field, maybe looking for bugs. And this pretty little guy I got up close to. The storm clouds were intensely beautiful. It looked like it was raining down the valley. I tried my very best to not be a last-minute packer this time. So a day ahead of time I pulled everything out and started putting stuff in a backpack. It didn't work out as great as it looks like it's going because I pulled everything back out and tried again. I usually get a bit mentally scattered in the few days preceding a trip. I keep worrying, do I have everything I need? What am I forgetting that I should be doing? And oh yeah, but I think we're getting it together. We got one more day and then we'll be on the plane to New Orleans. New Orleans. It's always hard to leave my bunnies behind. They're so cute. I'm enjoying Murphy's wiggly nose and I sped the video up to 2 times to see it wiggle faster. It was hard to get through that one big long last work day before going traveling, but it passed and here we are at the Durango airport. Sadly, our travels did not go well at all on this trip. First of all, they had to de-ice the plane from Durango to Denver, so we sat there for an extra half hour or so while they sprayed their de-icing solution all over the plane. Then up and over into Denver. That was a nice quick hop. And then in Denver, the food truck accidentally sprayed hydraulic fluid all over our plane. So we were delayed there for a long time. I don't know, 3 hours or something. The whole plane was boarded and had to deboard and wait for a second plane. But finally on the plane again, and this time to New Orleans. We ended up getting there much later than planned, and sadly missed a swamp tour that had been arranged by the group. We're going to New Orleans with Dominic's family, if I hadn't mentioned that before. So I was very disappointed to miss the swamp tour, though we did fly over some swamps. They looked really neat and interesting. We were tired at the end of our travel day. We got ourselves an Uber and got to the Airbnb before the group had returned. So we had time for some quiet showers and a little bit of rest before everybody else got back. It's a very interesting Airbnb. Pretty nice looking with a really long hall. It was in a good location for walking places, though the highway was a little closer than we would have preferred. We slept really well there and woke up to a pretty morning. We went walking downtown and there was these humongously tall buildings. I'm trying to remember where we were going. Well, that's right, we were walking down to the Mississippi. It was fun to see the Mississippi with these huge barges on it. And there was a wall of paddle locks. This was neat. Slowly moving upriver. There was this interesting brewery that looks more like a hotel. And beautiful, huge azalea bushes in bloom. It reminded me of Ohio. Then we went to see the cathedral. It was a pretty place. It felt quiet and prayerful. I like to stop in these pretty beautiful places in the midst of the bustle of travel. We went down to the French market and got some beignets. There were little fern-like plants growing out of the sides of the building. And this great egret, which the moment after I put down the camera caught and ate a mouse. It was pretty gross. This was the aquarium. We walked by it, but we didn't go in this time. I like the palm trees and the gulls flying over. We went to Mardi Gras World, where they make and maintain and store many of the big, huge decorations for their Mardi Gras floats. They're made out of styrofoam, most of them, and covered with paper mache and painted. Some of them are very intricate. It was kind of cool in a weird sort of way. Not my usual afternoon activity, but it was interesting. Then back at the Airbnb, I had a yummy bowl of cereal. And for dinner, we went to this wonderful, wonderful Vietnamese sushi shop. It was so delicious. The rain started coming down that evening, and the next morning it was pouring down in sheets on the window panes, making humongous puddles in the streets. We decided to spend that morning in the World War II Museum while the weather wasn't so great outside. It was a good experience in the museum, a very heavy topic, of course, but well done displays and videos. We spent a few hours there, and then we went back home for some lunch. In the yard of the building right by the Airbnb, there is this huge billboard. It's crazy. And we went walking in the garden district. We saw the old cemeteries. The cemetery was locked and we couldn't get in, but we peeked through the gates. It was pretty cool and old. Then we walked around looking at the big, huge mansions and the giant trees covered in little fern plants. The sidewalks there are pretty terrible, like really, really terrible. You had to watch your steps so you didn't trip. The weather was nice in the 60s and 70s. A bit humid, but not too terrible. I love to feel the character of different places. This one is so different from Durango. A lot of the city feels quite dirty and shabby compared to what we're used to. I want to get more of this terrible sidewalk. This is what stands out. One of the big things that stands out.
You should turn around and look at me.
Fire hydrants are on poles, probably in case of floods. I love these gnarly oak trees. Lots of people seem to have these gas lanterns on their porches. That night we had sushi again, this time with most of the group. We were only there 2 full days, but we filled them full. My only regret was we didn't get a chance to get out of town and see some of the nature in the swamps. And it was time to go. Escalators still excite me like they did when I was a little kid. Durango doesn't have any escalators. Our flight from New Orleans to Denver went smoothly. We flew out over what must have been a lake, I presume. There was a lot of water, and it didn't seem to be the ocean. We boarded our plane in Denver. Everything seemed good, but then they got us all off the plane once again because that plane had been filled too full of fuel and it wasn't safe to take off. So we had to wait for another plane. And finally, home again with my bunnies. Alright, though, it felt like a lot of traveling for a couple of days away, but it was nice to get out of town and see some new things. I was super tired and went right to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, it was raining and then trying to snow. Dominic was getting some real snow at his house. Very different from the warm weather we just came from. You silly bunny. Come back out of there, okay? Come off the windowsill. So cute. Come on out. Hello, baby boy. Hi, cutie.